Welcome to the From Harm to Healing podcast. I'm your host, Chris Jones, and I'm a therapist who runs the From Harm to Healing treatment program, an online program for men who have engaged in infidelity or compulsive sexual behaviors within the context of an intimate relationship. I started this podcast to illuminate some of the common blind spots within the treatment fields for compulsive sexual behavior or sex addiction through the lens of the deceptive sexuality trauma model. I hope you find this resource enlightening, particularly if you're somebody navigating the pain of betrayal and deception for yourself. Thank you for listening to the From Harm to Healing podcast. In the previous episode, I posted the first part of a conversation with Dr. Minwalla about the topic of attending work. And in today's episode, I'm bringing you the second part of that conversation.
And then you have this really great tool, approach, transition, conditions. When I want to turn towards AVT, I use ATC. AVT, ATC, AVT, ATC. One is a tool to help turn towards the other.
And so in that, as you said at the start, you can see the overlap of the three types of work we talked about. If there's not been the work on reduce the abuse, the integrity work, then it's going to be impossible to be able to attend well if I'm not in integrity. But also it's going to be impossible to sit with and be able to complete some of these tasks if I haven't also done, or I'm not working on the ego work as well, the ego strength, the resilience, the integration of my story. But what really shines through, and is something I try and really put at the center of my work when I'm talking about attending with clients, is that attending, not fixing. So we're a lot more focused on the conditions that are being provided than the specific techniques, for want of a better phrase, that we might use. So it's not about going in with, this is what I need to say, or this is the technique I need to use. Transitioning to that, these are the conditions I need to be in. These are the conditions I need to provide. So it seems like that really fits with what you're saying there.
Really excellent observation, Chris, because it even applies to therapy. Technique is really important. Methodology is really important. So, full stop. But so are conditions. And if we go all the way back to the 70s, at least, right? Carl Rogers, it's all about conditions, congruence, walking in the client's shoes. Very simple technique, but really heavy on conditions. Less on technique, more on conditions and who you are authentically and congruence. So we also talk about therapeutic conditions all the time as therapists, right? You got to create safe space. We got to create therapeutic conditions. How do you do that? What are you actually doing there? Aren't you intentionally trying to create certain vibrations in the room? When people are feeling adequately safe, isn't that actually vibrational? And when people don't feel safe, that's also energetic and vibrational in the room. So these conditions are very important. Why? Because the brain needs to feel safe enough in order to turn towards such activating, terrifying reality. And the brain has a primal instinct to turn towards, to protect you. So it's going to be really hard to turn towards, especially if you can't see it. So now we have a problem. You're trying to help people turn towards something they can't see or name. So, because it's so hard, and that's why society can't see it or name it yet, because it's so in our face and so huge that it's more adaptive right now to not see it than see it. But we're coming out of that and we're starting to see the basement as abuse. But there's this real need to help everyone turn towards and create these conditions. And then, yes, for abusers and guys and people who build basements, it's not always men. Any gender can create a basement. Any gender can be impacted. So, I just work with a lot of men. Sometimes I say that, right? And in my work. But a lot of men in recovery, it is valuable to learn, okay, what's a more empathic statement? And when you're reducing abuse, a lot of it is reducing callous, clumsy, insensitive comments. Let's just move on. It's also immediately learning how to be honest, right? Instead of dishonest. So there's so much around giving people tools. And part of those tools are sometimes less clumsy things to say. Sometimes there's scripts. Here's how to validate, right? Here's how to express feelings. Here's a sentence stem you can use to validate your partner. So these tools are important. But in terms of real relational healing and attending, it's not just coming in with a script and saying the right thing. Those are words. People need energy. They need attachment. They need to feel humility. They need to feel adequately safe with you when you're attending. And they need to feel high IAR, which means 2 A's. Accurate information and data, no more lying, to the highest degree. Accurate information. And then they need authenticity. They need to know, who is this person that's approaching me and trying to make me feel safe? Can I feel them? Are they giving me their energy, their authenticity, their humanity? And are they giving me the truth of them? This is my personhood you have here, and I'm here for you. Because they need immediate attachment as part of attending. They need to be held. They need to grab on to another human. They had attachment injury. They're a liminal space. If you approach them and you want to attend, you need to say, here, I'm solid and I'm here for you. Here's my humanity. Grab on. I got you, right? Like a life preserver, grab on. Immediate temporary attachment, ideally. So learning how to bring your authenticity after and including first learning how to be honest and intentionally accurate, authentic reality. So coming in with a script is good, I guess, if it helps you say the right thing. So that's one step in the right direction. But really what you want to help people with, especially the abuser who's trying to attend to his wife or partner, anyone who built the basement now as the abuser is trying to attend to their partner, the people who were harmed, the relationship, their kids, their adult kids, all of that. How do you turn towards and really sit with? And it's way more than just a script and saying the right thing. It's your energy. It's these 3 primary frequencies. Are you helping them feel safe? Are you coming in with humility and you're not trying to fix it in a one-up position? Are you giving them high IAR? They're scanning the voice for vibrations of IMR versus IAR. They're beyond just a script and saying the right thing. That's great, but that's really insufficient, actually, because victims are scanning the voice for truth or not. And the brain already has detection systems to detect truth in the voice. And so now with hypervigilance, that's going to be really turned up. Am I being lied to or not? Am I being intentionally manipulated? And a lot of victims, how did they get manipulated? Through the abuser's voice for years. So now the brain is going to be scanning the voice out of survival and protection here for them and their kids. and they're scanning the voice for vibrations. So having a right script, that's great, but that's not enough. How about learning how to be authentic and genuine and honest and actually have that vibrate in your voice progressively over time so that the partner's brain registers IAR, IAR, IAR over many, many months and has enough sufficient data to relax and start trusting again. Because there's actually true authenticity coming at her. So it's how to create these conditions, which means how to actually help people learn how to be authentic and honest. That's IAR. And you don't trick that. You don't just come in with the right script and be like, okay, I'm just going to say the right thing and that. No, that's just, you know. And to be quite frank, let's be real. So many partners I've worked with, they're triggered sometimes by it because it seems so basic. You just learn that script. Everyone's using that script. It feels canned. It feels rote. It feels cold. Like, where's the humanity? Like, you think you're just going to say this script and have the right phrasing and the right, sentence stem? Not to knock it down. I'm telling you, people really need skills. So, but it's not sufficient. And you don't want to set someone up to think, hey, I was saying the right thing. Why isn't she happy? That's just a setup. So you want to be way more realistic. You want to empower people with realistic expectations. So if you really want to attend to somebody, it's about learning how to be authentic and honest when you turn towards them, learning how to have humility because you're not there to fix it. You're there to attend and hold them, and learning how to really make sure everybody's adequately safe. If not, you slow down or stop because the human being is more important than the procedure. And the brain needs conditions, not a bunch of techniques. A lot of the techniques are getting your ego out of the way and how to listen. A lot of the techniques are learning how to shut up for a minute and really attend to someone's voice and walk in their shoes and sustain attention for a long time, sometimes 30 minutes, and not interrupt and allow them to get their story out in detail and show up and grant them something. You actually want to give them and grant them a measure of the dignity and respect they deserve for what they've endured. And you want to communicate that not in words, by listening and getting your ego out of the way and giving them that much attention and holding their voice with that much respect is giving them something. Victims need to be held, and they need an environment where finally they're being given a measure of the dignity and respect they deserve for what they've endured. How can you grant that? How can you grant? Grant is the word. How do you give somebody that? Hey, I see you. I'm willing to listen as an empathic witness. I'm willing to resonate with your story and hold it and get my ego out of the way. I don't need to agree. And I'm going to not interrupt at all. And I'm going to let you get your organic story out in its original form. And I'm here for you. And I'm going to remain silent the whole time and not interrupt so you can get your story out. What I'm describing is high-level eating elephant as well, which is another term we can talk about. But that's how you really help somebody in terms of vibing in. That's what that stage of vibing in I talked about earlier. That's how you vibe in and really help someone get the story out under optimal conditions. So yes, for the abuser, he also has to eventually learn how to get his ego out of the way eventually. If there's relational healing at a deeper level, stage 3, and people have been stabilized first and both people want to, right? Then the abuser at a higher level at some point needs to also learn how to hold his partner's story, get his ego out of the way, and sit as an empathic witness and listen as an empathic witness. And if he can do that, there's some really deep healing and reattachment that can happen there, right? So it's all about conditions and not trying to or manipulate your way through it. You have to really learn to become an honest person and a safe person and actually have humility. And if you don't actually have those things, then you actually don't have it. You don't have that to give yet. But that's what attending is, and then really emphasizing this part about granting them the measure. Victims and survivors really need to be given a measure of the dignity and respect they deserve for what they've endured. And let me add, if someone's in a real car crash, breaks their leg, society, everybody, family, friends, gathers around, sees them, and can validate them and offer support and empathy. For victims of a secret sexual basement, zero validation from anyone, family, friends. Nobody sees it. Institutions don't see it. Therapists don't see it. Family, friends don't see it. Girlfriends don't see it. Nobody sees it, including her partner doesn't see it. So just to be able to be seen and held is so powerful. And then to be in an environment where people can get their stories out uninterrupted in detail. When you create these conditions, Chris, guess what? When you have a group of people, but even in a dyad, right, 2 people, but when you have a group of people and everyone's under these conditions in extraordinary space, everyone's being silent and just letting one person grab the talking stick for half an hour and get their story out, or 20 minutes or 15 minutes, doesn't have to be that long, but you just want to not interrupt, let them get their story out in organic detail. What you're really doing there with these intentional, conscious, clinical vibrations and these conditions, it's like when a toddler or a little child is hurt, they scrape their knee or something on the playground and they're crying. We have an instinct as a caregiver not to leave them on the ground, but to first pick them up and just hold them and start soothing them, rubbing their back and saying, tell me what happened, tell me what happened. They're not afraid of falling because they're already being held. And they're being soothed. They already have attachment and they're being soothed. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. We got you. I got you. And now under that being held and safety and being soothed with resilience, and there's nowhere to fall because people got them. Now the kid can get the story out and start telling the story. This is what happened to me. And then they'll start getting the story out, and then they'll get to a point where they're done and there's a natural, you can feel their body relaxing and they feel better because they got their story out and they were able to tell you what happened about scraping their knee and getting hurt. Why didn't we just leave them on the ground? Why didn't we just say, tell me what happened, and look down? Right? We have this instinct, creating those conditions. And when we ask someone to tell their story, let's say a survivor, and we ask her to tell her story, those conditions are basically holding her and soothing and saying, we got you, and we're going to hold you, and you get your story out, your traumatic story that you're holding inside. You get to get it out and have permission to get it out. It's a vibrational way of holding and soothing with attachment to help people get their traumatic stories out using the talking stick. Those conditions we talked about, Chris, are literally the hug. That's intentional vibe theory. And so, yeah, you want to ultimately teach the person who caused harm to their partner how to turn towards and really hold them eventually and be able to say, I got you, get your story out with me. And that's the most important person if they want to heal the relationship, is getting it out with each other face to face when they're ready as a dyad, the abuser and the victim, if the victim wants to, and both people want to, right? A lot of victims emancipate from their abusers, right? But a lot of relationships after infidelity and secret sexual basements do attempt and want repair and healing. And eventually the abuser needs to be able to go in a room, get his ego out of the way, be very, very strong and resilient, and hold his partner's pain and story as an empathic witness, and really vibrate ultimately these vibrations of humility, create adequate safety for her, giving her permission, and bringing high, accurate authenticity to the situation that's actually real, not faked, not acting as if. It's authentic. Right? You can't fake truth. It is what it is. It's either there or not. And that's what really partners need, is truth, IAR, adequate safety, at least those three vibrations coming from their partner. Otherwise, how are they going to even get their story out with him? How are they going to metabolize what happened as a dyad? So you nailed it with these conditions in terms of really isolating how important conditions are over techniques. For therapists, for everyone, right? If you focus too much on techniques, I said the right thing, I had the whole script, I don't know why it didn't work. And no, relationships are more than the text and the script, right? Relationships are energy. We attune to each other like tuning forks. We create bonds that are energetic. They're not scripts.
And when we talk about this deeper attending work, metabolizing, in the episode I just recorded with Trish, she really talked about, from the therapeutic lens, us being 100% present, but our voice maybe only being 20% in the room. And I'm thinking for abusers, perhaps even lower than that. We're talking about this sitting with, listening. So 100% present, but not 50-50 talking, the voice being much less. And I find that how this links to the ego work we're talking about as well. It's hard to sit and just listen to somebody and not want to jump in, maybe not want to correct things that I mishear, my defenses that come up. Maybe the partner says, and this is what you were doing every day. And I want to say, well, no, it was every other day. My defenses, my weak ego is coming up and bringing my voice into the work. And so it's that importance of ego work again. And two of the principles I talk about a lot are slowing down and zooming out. And I know the slowing down very much fits with your thoughts, but I had this idea of zooming out as well. I think our shame, if we haven't really reconciled the ego, we tend to zoom in on every accusation being thrown our way, everything that's bringing my defenses up, and we tend to speed up and become more reactive or more defensive. And so I always like to really bring in those ideas. Can we learn to slow down? And can we learn to just zoom out, see the bigger picture, focus on the conditions, 100% present? But this isn't about me. This is about the other person. So it takes a great deal of ego work. And I think, again, really fits in with everything you've said there.
Yes, Chris. So I think you started with presence versus voice, right? The difference there. There's a lot in that word presence. Presence is the human part. That's the most important part for someone in abuse victim trauma reality, especially the survivor. They need a real human first and foremost. And the best way that really shows up and can show up and get communicated is presence. They need your presence, which means a lot of different things. First of all, it means complete 100% focus. That's why I said unplug to vibe in. What is the brain registering right from the get-go if there's not 100% focus? I'm not important. It's a totally wrong vibe. Already the victim, the person is scared. The brain's scared. That's not optimal safety. Especially as the abuser, you're approaching your victim. They're in distress, right? It's not a happy-go-lucky moment in life. They're in distress. And you're still going to be on your phone and approach them. Hey, what do you need? What's up? No, I think there's a better way. How about unplug and vibe in, switch gears, get yourself together, because they need what? Your presence. Remember the definition of a 10, to be present with. Presence. As a therapist, presence. And that means coming in with your heart and vulnerability and humanity, not your credentials. That's in your back, right? That's what Trish says. That's all on your back, behind you. That's your backing. But you don't approach people with your institutional credentials. They need a human. You give them your underbelly, your vulnerability, your humanity, and you give them presence. I am here for you. I got you. I got your back. And I see you. The world doesn't see people who've been victimized with this covert operation called deceptive sexuality, do they? No. Nobody sees them. Which makes somebody who's giving them presence, and in that presence, they feel seen. Man, that's very powerful for a survivor to be validated and seen. First and foremost, can you just see me? Because if you can't see me, you can't attend to me. So can you see me? Can you name what I'm going through? Can you even see where I'm at, right? So that's presence, is I see you. That's not words. That's presence. I'm not on my phone. My eyes are on you. My energy is for you. I'm here to grant you a measure of the dignity and respect you deserve for what you've endured. That's presence. That's your vibe. You don't need to open your mouth. That's presence. That's what a therapeutic container relationship dynamic can offer. Or anyone who wants to help a survivor, including the abuser, their family, people around them. Presence. The word attend, to be present with. The word with. You're actually present with the person. There's a bond there, right? I'm being present with you. I'm giving you my presence. You have my presence. I am present, right? When the teacher says, who's present? I'm here, present, right? I'm here. I'm here for you. I got you. I got your back. These are the fundamental things. If somebody's in a, post-tsunami and they're struggling and swallowing water, and you just pulled them onto, solid ground for a minute and they're starting to breathe, you want to be able to say, I got you. I'm here. Are you okay? I'm here for you. You want all of your body language, your attention to be focused. That's presence. An infant who's in distress, if the caregiver routinely, every time they cry, turns their back and turns away makes no eye contact. Actually, every time the infant is in distress, they turn away and they divert their eyes. That's devastating in terms of developing secure attachment. If every time the infant's in distress, immediately the caregiver's right there, what do you need? I'm here for you, eye contact, that's going to develop over time a really much more secure attachment and dependency in the world, that people are there for you when you need them, not turning their back. So attending even includes your body language, your eyes. How many times in this situation, right, you might have a partner who was cheated on, and let's say he wants to talk to his wife who cheated on him, and she keeps turning away, no presence, no presence, no presence. The turning away instinct is part of what's getting in the way of people being able to just be present. That's why it's so important to educate people. Hey, you can get out of that hijack and start learning how to turn towards, how to be present, how to really sit with, how to really focus on this, how to put down your phone, how to hold eventually, right? So how to be present, such an important word, presence. Even like EMT, when you're an EMT or, a rescue worker or someone who, a firefighter, a lifeguard, we're trained. Make eye contact. Are you okay? Turn your body towards the person. Right? These are all kind of normal responses in how to attend. And then you mentioned, Chris, slowing down. Whoa. That's another Trish term, slowing down like molasses. So many men I talk to, they're talking at the same rate that they normally do. When you're approaching someone in pain, you usually meet them where they're at. And sometimes that means slowing down your voice. Why would you approach someone in such acute pain and talk like in a normal voice, like really, really fast and, hey, how you doing? Do you need any help? Blah, 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 blah. No. Are you okay? What do you need? Slowing down. Also, notice the tone and the volume and the rate of the voice. It's all, how do you be gentle? How do you be gentle and caring and nurturing and soft? Someone's in shards of glass. How do you slow down? How do you meet them where they're at? How do you bend down and meet them where they are? That's going to require your voice, everything about you, understanding how to slow down, how to be gentle and nurturing and caring, not normal, ordinary space here. Not like you're at a board meeting. It's not the same voice. And then we go right into masculinity. We're not socialized as men and boys to be soft, gentle, caring, and nurturing in our voice or in our vibes. It's bled out of us. It's considered girly, right? So yeah, we're not going to be developing how to be gentle, how to be soft and slow down and meet people in their wounds with compassion. Compassion is not in the man box, is not part of masculinity development. How to develop compassion? Get out of here. No. So the very skills that are required to meet someone in pain and suffering are really not there for a lot of guys in the beginning. And they're really not going to be there if they don't see suffering or an injury. But yeah, presence, slowing down like molasses, and then zooming out. Man, Chris, that's great. Zooming out. Why? When you get angry and in fight mode, guess what? You start looking down the barrel of a gun. That's part of the brain. When you're in survival mode, the world gets smaller and more narrowed. What's the danger? You got to focus. You got to shut out the rest of the world and you got to focus on the enemy. So the brain's already zooming in and shutting out all the rest of the data, getting ready to shoot, right? You got to focus. You got to aim. You don't have time to think about poetry and stuff. So the brain is literally zooming in. And the more activated and the more defensive, probably the brain's zooming in even more. How do you help someone when they're zooming in and they don't want to start getting angry towards the victim they harmed? Zoom out. Zoom way out. You're not trying to shoot anybody or attack anybody here. You're trying to actually not do that. So when you feel that zooming in, you gotta, okay, I'm sensing a zooming in. That means I'm probably getting ready for a fight or some protection here. Some defense is coming up. I got to zoom out. And what does that zooming out mean? Let's step back in the big picture here. This person's been a victim of a psychological operation for 30 years, then had a car crash and I still abused her. And now she's trying to share her pain. And she said one little thing wrong and I'm supposed to actually be holding her, not trying to agree right now. And I'm getting all defensive and worked up about this small detail that's incorrect. And I'm zooming in and I'm zooming in. And oh man, Chris Jones said I need to zoom out. And remember the big picture here. And I'm the one who brought all this pain that she now has to deal with. And I really need to hold on to that big picture so I don't attack her for one little technical error. When I'm really supposed to be holding her like a toddler with empathy and saying, tell me what happened and get your story out. Or at least granting her a measure of the dignity and respect she deserves for what she endured. Or at least learning how to not say that, even if I want to attack her, learning how not to. But yeah, zooming out. So yes, presence, slowing down, zooming out from Chris Jones. Those are all really great attending skills. Really for anyone in life, when you feel zooming in, I'm ready to attack. Hey, zoom out, Chris Jones. That's the tool. Put it in perspective. Is it worth it? Do you really want to do it? Are you going to regret it? Is it appropriate? And then develop skills on how to zoom out when you need. That's really something you want to develop, is a zoom out skill program, right? Presence, slow down, and zoom out. Those are three. Hey, you have three things now, Chris. Presence, slow down. Yeah, those are your three concepts, right? For attending work. Really helpful though, right? And you can just imagine now a guy in recovery, if he can't even see this reality of abuse and doesn't even know that there's traumatic symptoms or there has been abuse, that there's actually, his partner's actually been harmed in this way, then you can really see how it's a recipe for callous, clumsy, insensitive, and cruel responses. And quite the opposite of attending work. Because if there's nothing to attend to, why would you?
The other thing that's implicit in everything you're saying here, but that keeps jumping up in my mind, is that we can be physically in a room but not present. Going back to when I was saying 100% present, you talked about body language. You mentioned earlier, even an eye roll can betray the fact that I'm not really present. So another thing I like to say is that being present or attending is an active skill. So we might not be saying anything, we might be sitting and listening. Our voice might not be the center of attention, but it is an active skill. My body language, my eye contact, my tone, even my breathing, everything about me is sending off a vibe, an active vibe of where I am right now. So I would sometimes hear guys say, she hates it when I just sit there and say nothing. But if I try and say something, it's always the wrong thing. And then we always want to slow down and zoom out again. Well, wait a minute. What does it mean when I'm sitting there? Because I can just be sitting there with my shoulders down, curled up, looking at the floor. Am I really present? So I love emphasizing that aspect of it as well, which again, I think is implicit in everything that you were saying. This is an active process, active listening, active presence. This is not just sitting there, shut down, letting her vent at me, because there's no real healing to be found there. If anything, it's probably more triggering.
Yes, I think attending is all about something very active, extremely energetic, and can be very exhausting, right? As a clinician, really holding people's stories and voices with such high intention and attention, and getting your ego out of the way and just really focusing on following the story intellectually as if you're walking in their shoes the whole time, like you're watching a movie that you cannot look away from. You're so absorbed. You're literally imagining being in their shoes as they're telling the story. And then you're resonating as much as you can and riding the story and their voice. You're riding their voice and getting all the data in their voice, including the pauses, the cracks, the emotion, all the emotion. So you're taking in all of that. You're resonating. You're matching the vibrations in their voice, and you're holding. Whoa, that is a posture. And what are you doing? You're holding as an empathic witness. The witness part is, I see you. I see you. It's giving them their day in court where everyone shuts up and they get to just speak and be given the measure of the dignity and respect they deserve for what they've endured by no interruption. The point is not to agree, is to hold and be an empathic witness. Allow them to be seen and have their day in court. An empathic part of empathic witness is bleeding with them and the story, not for them or doing their work for them, but your heart's in it, and it hurts when you hear horror stories and how humans hurt each other. So if you're really paying attention to this story, then you're also hurting with them. You're carrying a burden with them, actually. The more people in the room listening and holding, the more you have these intentional frequencies, holding them like a toddler and soothing them with resilience and allowing them to get their stories out. That's the deeper part. But in terms of just attending, right, and sitting there and not speaking, these are all different tasks, actually. So there's actually a task called sitting with. And what does sitting with mean? Right? The definition is to occupy a seat, to stay with and care for. So when you said, Chris, just sit there and take it, that's absolutely not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone who knows how to sit with, which means to occupy a seat, to stay with and care for. How do you sit with someone in the hospital? Do you have to blab on and on for hours, or can you just sit with them in the hospital Why is that healing for people to have someone sit with them? This term sitting with is so important. In this model, it's a whole task. How do you sit with someone? A lot of times it's about not speaking. Sitting with is often not about speaking, actually. It's sitting with, to occupy a seat, to stay with. I gotta go. Okay, nice. Hi. Nice visit at the hospital. A few seconds. Okay, we gotta go. Here's some flowers. Or to occupy a seat and stay with the person. Stay with them and care for them. Sitting there with your arms crossed, huffing and puffing, waiting for her to be over in bed, that is completely not what I'm talking about. Like, I don't even know what that is. Like, no, that's not what we're talking about with sitting with. Attention is one of the first attending tasks in terms of sitting with. What do you do when you're sitting with? Attend to the person. The word attention, what does it mean? Notice, taking up someone or something. You have to notice them. What do you notice? What are you noticing? The word attention means the regarding of someone or something as interesting or important. Look up the word attention. The regarding of someone or something as interesting or important. That's how you sit with someone. You're important. You're interesting to me. You matter. I'm going to stay with you and care for you and sit with you. I'm going to notice you because you're important and interesting to me. That's why. That's the word attention. Holding. What does the word holding mean? There's a few definitions here. Number one, supporting in a particular position or to keep from falling or moving. Holding, to support in a particular position, such as an empathic witness. To bear the pressure of, support, that's another definition of holding. To bear the pressure of, let me hold your pain with you. Let me help you get your story out, and I'm going to hold it and receive it. I don't need to agree. I just want to be here and hold it with you. Holding, another definition, enclosing and keeping in a container or within bounds. Let's create extraordinary space. A container to do this work, right? To sit with you and to hold your story, to hold you. Sitting with, attention, holding, these are all tasks. Bearing witness, these are all tasks. So, you mentioned sitting and not speaking, right? And so you really articulated actually some really important parts of the model and actual phrases and terms that actually mean something. And that's actually, I think, the first task of attending when you're coming down the mountain after mountain work is sitting with. Part of what you're doing also is helping them get the story out. Holding space is another term, resonating, empathic witnessing. Also really learning how to bottom up learn. When we sit like that, get our ego out of the way and just listen in this way and hold people's stories, as a receiver, you are benefiting. You are growing and learning so much about humans and life when you sit and listen. It's not like reading a journal. It's bottom-up learning. And you really understand someone and what they've gone through in their story. And it's a very different kind of learning. Ultimately, that would be the kind of learning that you would want in relational healing. What happened to you? And I'm going to really hold you in it. And we're going to get through this together as a relationship. So these are all skills, actually. Sitting with, holding space, how to resonate, how to be an empathic witness, what that means, how to bleed with, not for, how to really honor the role of silence. Silence is the metabolizer. Silence is what moves like molasses and heals after people speak, and the silence is the most important part. Not, oh, that happened to me too. Nobody cares right now what happened to you too. It's the person who's speaking and getting their story out that you're attending to. It's not about you. You don't need to say anything. Most of the time you're silent because you're bottom up learning and you're letting people get stories out when you're attending in this way. So there's a huge role of getting your voice out of the picture sometimes and learning how to sit with, how to honor your partner, how to grant her a measure of dignity and respect she deserves, how to hold space, how to resonate, how to be an empathic witness, how to honor silence and understand it as a part of healing, how to slow down, how to be gentle, how to meet her where she's at, not come in a one-up position. So yeah, getting your voice out of the way is really important. And your voice is also a key instrument in healing in terms of being truthful and authentic. So you really brought up a really important point here about a lot of the men you work with, and they're just sitting there and thinking that they're supposed to just take it and listen to her vent and that they're doing something helpful. No, not at all. So really, really harmful for the person who's trying to be held and share their story and needs a measure of dignity and respect and validation and to be seen, and to turn to their partner and just have a whole wall of defense is excruciatingly painful in terms of attachment and thoughts about the future.
What I really love about this conversation is that it's following on, as I mentioned earlier, from some conversations I had with Trish. You can just see the resonance between how you're speaking about these things, how that links to so much of what she said as well. And really coming back to that idea of vibes, sitting with, being an empathic witness, the energetic thing happening in the room, all of those things being the foundation. Knowing what to say is helpful, or developing my communication skills, but we're coming back to that bigger picture of the presence, the slowing down, all of these beautiful things we've talked about. And in this model, it can be overwhelming to hear all of those things, but as you said, they sort of build on each other. We have that picture of the mountain going up, facing ego work, developing that resilience. Then maybe as we're coming down, we can then more organically sit in these skills, in this active presence that we're talking about. But I'm aware we're at the end of our time again now. It always seems to go so quickly. And so I thought it would be great to, as we transitioned into this from ordinary to extraordinary space, if I could hand it to you to transition us back out as we end the conversation.
Beautiful, Chris. So such an honor to be with you, to talk about this, right? I've been developing this for years, and man, it's such a beautiful zone I'm in now to be able to have these conversations with someone who can have them with me. So I really appreciate that, Chris. And I really, truly enjoy, this coffee with Chris Jones idea, right? I'm into more conversations if you want, because I love having them so much with my cup of coffee, Starbucks. So, all right. You ready to leave extraordinary space for this session? and go back into ordinary space. So on the count of 3, you want to transition your brain out of this extraordinary space, very intentional, focused, turning towards this very sensitive topic of the secret sexual basement. And now we'll leave it and go back into our lives. And we'll do that with a transitionary breath. That's our ritual. Our breath right here is our ritual. And on the other side of that breath is ordinary space, is your life. All right, on the count of 3, you ready? 1, 2, 3, inhale. And exhale.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the From Harm to Healing podcast. If you'd like to find out more information about the deceptive sexuality trauma model itself, you can visit minwallamodel.com. If you're interested in the services that I offer, in particular the From Harm to Healing treatment program, please visit chrisjonestherapy.co.uk.